always wanted to do, was just be a conduit for all kinds of strange and interesting things that people, generally speaking, don't know. And, so many people in this country feel helpless. Well, it's because they are helpless, because they have no power, because knowledge is power. And so if you have no knowledge as to what's going on, you can't fix anything. So that's the big problem in America today. People have no idea in the world what's going on or how the trick works. And it is a trick. America is a very powerful country. And it didn't get that way by being kind and courteous. It got that way by, like the British. The British Union Jack flag has the cross of St. Andrew, the crisscross, then it's got the cross of St. George on it. It's called the Union Jack flag. So you got two crosses. That's why they were called double crosses. The whole idea of the British have always been double crossing. They've always been lying, cheating, manipulating. It's an extraordinary story. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. When I talk about the British, I'm not talking about the English people. I love the people. But if I'm a white guy in, say, a black country in Africa, and I get thrown into jail, and I'm the only white guy in the jail, the first thing, the smart thing for me to do is get everybody fighting each other. So I tell one guy, you know what he said about your mother, and another guy, you know what he said about you, and before you know it, I've got everybody fighting each other. Good, let them kill each other and leave me alone. That's what England does. England gets everybody fighting each other. And then they come in and buy up the property and end up owning it all and do it all behind the scenes so that no one should ever know, and that's why they're a bunch of double crossers. And I, as an American, I'm just amazed at how the American people just fall all over themselves for the royalty and the prince and princess. Nobody likes to be talked down to and treated with disrespect. Nobody. How many times would you want to be in the company of people who look at you like you're trash under their feet and won't even talk to you, have nothing to do with you? And yet Americans love to crawl on their knees to see the Queen Mum as she rides by in her gold chariot and flips a cigarette out at you, and her Prince Charles and all of these princes and princesses. And they live off of the sweat and the blood and the sweat of the working people, and people love it. So as far as I'm concerned, we get what we pay for. We get what we want. People love to crawl on their knees to their masters and to important people, politicians. It's all business. You need to understand this, that all of life is considered commerce. Everything is business. Everything is based on commerce. You need to look up the word commerce, and I got a lot of that stuff I'll show you later. And if you look up in a law dictionary, look up the word Congress, because we like to talk about how the United States has a Congress. Do you know what the word Congress means? Sex. The sexual act is referred to lawfully as Congress. You caress, then you congress. And the very word commerce, has to do with sex. It's a sexual term, commerce. So that's why if you're getting married, you have to have a license. Why do you have to have a license? Well, because you need to understand that you are a corporation. Your body is considered by law to be a company, a corporation. And if you're going to do business with another corporation, which is fine, but you have to have a license, right? So, and if the project doesn't work out, you're not going to God, you're going to court, because it's a business. You have a partner. So if I see you with some girl and I tell you, you know what, I think she's bad company, and you say, mind your own business. Company, business, partner, we're talking commerce. That's why you have to have a license to get married. You have to have a license because the marriage is considered a commercial venture. And so this is why attorneys have to have a license to practice law. The reason why is because it's a business. They're going to make a lot of money representing you. Well, how are they going to make the money representing you? Well, it's because of their knowledge of the law books. So you cannot take a story that I write and make a movie out of it without talking to me first. That's my story I wrote, and you take it to make a movie. No, thank you. It don't work that way. You come to me first and talk to my attorney and pay me up front if I allow you to use my work. Same thing with an attorney. You're going to use a book, the law books, to represent me, and I'm paying you. Well, you need to get a permit from the people who wrote the law book, because you're using their work. Then when you find out that all of American laws, federal, state, county, city laws, all of our laws in America are copyrighted in Canada for the British. All of our laws are all copyrighted for the British. So we're living under British Maritime Admiralty law. I mean, it's a fascinating subject of how the world really works. I mean, there's so much to tell you and so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. But I do believe I'm more interested in my personal life. I'm more interested in theology and religion and the ancient world in relation to theology. But I realize that there is a very important need for people to understand how government works and how the laws work. Let me give you an example. We talked about this before. If you have a two-story building and you're going to put a lot of weight upstairs, like printing presses or whatever, the first thing to do is to go downstairs and get on a ladder with a building inspector and go up through the ceiling tiles and see if the floor is going to hold that kind of weight before you go building on it. So what you're doing is you're standing under the foundation to get understanding. That's where the word comes from. So if you haven't gone below the surface on everything, then you don't understand what's going on. So you need to realize that all the things that we see every day, the words and terms that we use, why do you have police? You have police because, well, that's a whole different story. I could get into that when we get into government and how America was founded. But it's just an extraordinary, fascinating world of words and terms. Why do you go to court? You play basketball and tennis on a court. Yeah, so, and how do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Come on. So when you understand the words and terms and the catchphrases that the professional people use in these different disciplines, you begin to see how all of this is a manipulation of words. And put an S in front of the word word and it becomes sword, because words can kill you. You know, when you go into a court, the whole idea in a court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. So you've got one team, a team of lawyers, and that team picks the ball up and throws the ball back in their court. Now that team picks the ball back up and throws it in your court. And so the whole idea is a game. It's commerce. It's business. And the judge is ruling from the bench. The word bench is a bank in Latin. So therefore the judge is ruling from the bench. That's why he gives you a bench warrant. If you don't show up in court, you get a bench warrant. Bench means bank. The law doesn't care about you. The bank cares about you. You were going to pay a lot of money in fines, and they were going to make a lot of money off of you, and you didn't show up. So they issue a bench warrant. And again, you need to realize that courts are nothing more than a commercial endeavor. And why do you have a fence and a gate in a courtroom? And people go in and sit down, but there's a fence and a gate. What does that mean? Well, the gate is a water gate, because the idea being is that the people who sit out here on this side are under the law of the land. We've heard that term, law of the land. Yeah, people live on land. However, once you walk through the gate, you're now in hot water, because inside the gate is maritime admiralty. Inside the gate is rule. The rule now is not on the land. Now you're in water, because that's all there is just land and water on the earth. So once you're in a courtroom and you walk through and you put your hand, when they call your name, and you put your hand on the gate and open the gate, that piece of wood across the gate that you opened up is called a bar. And you're not licensed to pass the bar. So that's why when you open the gate, it's called a floodgate. You are now in territory of water. And so now you're in hot water. Someone's going to have to bail you out. And because you're 90% water, if somebody can't bail you out, they're going to put you in a cell. Because you're a biological, electrical, water, maritime admiralty product. They're going to put you in a cell.
So being a corporation doesn't sound good at all. How do I get out of being a corporation? Is there a way to avoid this?
Well, let me better go back and explain that you are a corporation. And there's two ways of explaining this. You are a business. And that's why I don't want you putting your nose into my business, right? That's because you are, in fact, by law, a business, a corporation. That's why when you die, you're a corpse, because you were a corporation. Now you're defunct. You're out of business. But how do you tell? See, there's two of you. My God, I don't even know where to start on this. Look at, you ask anybody how many states are in our federal union, in our union in this country, and people will tell you there's 50 states. There is not 50 states. There's 100 states in our union, because there are 2 states in every state. First of all, say in California, you have California State. California State is California. But the word state of California is not California. State of is a word that's used in maritime law to denote the federal government operating inside of California. So state of is federal. So you have Cal State Northridge, Cal State Long Beach, Cal State. Cal State is the state, but state of California is federal. So now you need to know when you go into court to play the game, whether you're going to be you're going to need a lawyer or an attorney, because they don't mean necessarily the same thing. Because the words and terms and how this stuff really works, and the judge in a courtroom, I forgot to mention, the judge sits on, he rules from the bench, as I said, which is a bank, but the judge wears a black robe. Why does he wear a black robe? Black robes are a very important symbol. It means something to people who know. This is why when kids graduating from school, college, or high school wear black robes. Darth Vader wears a black robe. Dracula wears a black robe. Black robes represent something very important. It represents the planet Saturn. The planet Saturn is referred to in the ancient world as Lord of the Rings. We're still making movies in Hollywood. Lord of the Rings, which is the planet Saturn, Lord of the Rings. And the ancient people were told to listen to their gods, so women would wear an ear ring. Men were to get married before their god, so they wear a wedding ring. Get it? Lord of the Rings, Saturn. And
how many people even know they're worshiping Saturn today?
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And so the Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, and the Hebrew people, they celebrate something called Sabbath, which is a holy day, which is Friday evening to Saturday evening, because they count their days from evening to evening. Why? There's a reason for that too. Very simple, but it has to do with moon worship. I'll get into that later. But Saturn was, as I said, referred to as Lord of the Rings. And what was I saying? Where was I going to go with that? But it has to do with the use of terms and words that today people don't understand, the connections. There's so much going on in my head right now I'd like to be able to express, but there's just so much, I don't even know where to begin with this stuff. Say it again?
He wanted us to get into sovereign citizenship.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, pretty much, what is a sovereign citizenship, and what are the steps to becoming one?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the way the government is set up today, well, let's see, where would we start to make sense on this? First of all, if you say that you are a U.S. citizen, what you think. Like if you go to a bank or go into any big corporation or whatever and fill out an application, and they ask you, are you a U.S. citizen? And you say yes. What you think that they're asking you on the application is, are you lawfully in America to do business here? That's not what they ask you. Any good attorney would say, I didn't ask you that. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm asking you, are you saying of your own volition, out of your own mouth, are you testifying that you are a U.S. citizen? And you think, well, of course I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm perfectly free, this is my country. I'm a U.S. citizen. No, that has nothing to do with you being lawfully in America. U.S. citizen means that you are an employee of a foreign corporation which was incorporated in Delaware back in 1871. It's a privately owned company. There was a company after the Civil War was incorporated in Delaware. And right about 1868, 69, 70, and in 71. So there was a privately owned company incorporated. Well, anybody can incorporate a company, anybody. But you have to have a president of the corporation, a vice president, and a secretary-treasurer. And so there was a group of men got together and formed a corporation called the United States Corporation. And basically in that corporation, anyone who works for that corporation would be called a citizen. So it's called a U.S. corporation. It's a privately owned company. And so what you are saying, if you say you're a U.S. citizen, is you're saying that you are an employee of a foreign corporation, because the corporation is not in California, it's in Washington, D.C. And so that's the corporate headquarters. And so, but you are working for them, so you are an employee of a foreign corporation. And therefore, you are a corporation. You are a franchisee, I think the word is, franchisee. So it's like if you open up a McDonald's here, you are not McDonald's. You're merely a franchise. You're merely one of the McDonald's. And so the idea being is that the corporation, privately owned company in Washington, D.C., it's a corporation. It has a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and you are an employee of that corporation. So therefore, in California, if you're living here and making money here in California, you are a franchisee of a foreign corporation, and you're working here making money in California. If you go back to the 1849 Constitution of California, 1849 Constitution of California says that California will never ever have a state tax. So there is no such a thing as legally, unlawfully, as a state tax in California. We don't have one. But if you are a U.S. citizen, which means you're an employee of a privately owned company called United States Corporation, incorporated in 1871, then you are a franchisee of a foreign corporation. Therefore, you don't pay the California state tax, you pay the California Franchise Tax Board, because you're a franchisee of a foreign corporation. California has no state tax. Say it again?
How do you get out of this whole system where we're corporations?
Yeah. So the way, well, first of all, it's a very dangerous subject to talk about in public, because there are ways to do it, but you have to understand what you've gotten yourself into. Let me explain something first before we get into how to get out of it. All ships, everything is based on maritime admiralty. Everything is based on the law of water, because there's only land and water on the earth. So the land, as I said in a court, the people are on this side are under the law of the land, because they live on land. But inside, where the judge sits, is water. Okay, it's maritime admiralty, the water. And one of the words, a word that is used in the ancient world for the sea was mer, M-E-R, which gives us mermaid. And so we say that the water, the waves are enchanting. So it gives us the word merchant. And so the merchant it's like music to his ears, the money coming in. And so it's a merchant, and so how do you get in to do music, to do business with the merchant? Is you go through the front door. It's called an entrance. No, entranced into you get entranced to go into to do business with the merchant. You need to understand that everything is basically in law based on water. Now, when all ships, and I'm giving this preface to answer your question later, all ships, rocket ship, sailing ship, I don't care what kind of ship it is, all ships are female by law. You always have captains saying that, oh, she's a wonderful ship, or she's a seaworthy ship. All ships are female. And so when a ship pulls into harbor, it parks at the dock. And where it parks at the dock is called its berth, B-E-R-T-H. She is sitting in her berth. And so she ties off at the dock. And so every piece that comes off that ship, say for instance $800 million worth of Toyotas coming off that ship, every single item coming out that ship has to have its own certificate of manifest. It's called a certificate of manifest. As they bring the car off, does it have 4 doors or 2? The air conditioning, what color is it? And so every ship has to have its own paperwork. It's called a certificate, because she has brought she's brought the product in. Women produce the product. And so when she's sitting in her berth and every item coming out of her has to have a certificate, that's why when your mother gave birth, she was in labor and she gave birth, and so you have to have a birth certificate. And so the birth certificate's got to be signed by the dock, because that's where the ship is sitting, by the dock. So, and of course, if you're taking off one of those cars and it falls down and crashes, or a TV falls and breaks, that's all right. It was stillborn. You didn't get to make any money off of it. That's okay. Those things happen. But you have to have a doctor sign the death certificate. So the doc has to sign your certificate. And once you understand that banks run the court, and all banks pretty much are backed up by the real powers of a bank is basically insurance companies. Insurance companies are the brains and the power behind the bank. That goes back to the corporation again. So today, you are not free. In New York, they have something called the Statue of Liberty. It's not the Statue of Freedom. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he comes into port. You get liberty, not freedom. You can't just decide to walk off the ship. No. You talk to the captain. Why is it captain? Because the captain occupies a position by law as God. I don't know if you know that or not. But all captains of ships have the position under maritime law as deity. They're like God. That's the law. So a captain on a ship can do whatever he wants. If he doesn't like you, he can put you in and lock you up until you get back to port, because he's God. Once he's in that ship, he is the law. And so why we call him a captain? Because he represents capital. Capital is the money. If you don't have the capital, you can't do anything. So it's really an interesting story about how words are used to manipulate, exploit people. And so, as I said, when she gives birth to you, you have to have a birth certificate, because that's why all your vital signs are on that certificate. You know, what color was it? How much does he weigh? Did he have 2 hands? And so, because why? Because you are a product. She produced you. And so the product becomes a commercial thing to be bought and sold. And here's what's very interesting. Your body, your physical body, is a security on the New York Stock Exchange. Let me show you something. When you take out your Social Security card, and on the back of your Social Security card, I have one here, I think, here it is. On your Social Security card, if you go to work for a corporation, say like General Motors or Ford Motor Company or some Sears, some big corporation, you normally have a name tag that says that you are lawfully employed by this corporation. And so the Social Security number is your number in the corporation called United States Corporation. This is your tag number. All right. However, on the back of the Social Security card is a set of numbers. On the very back of your Social Security card, on the bottom, these numbers are in red. They don't have to be in red, but often they are. These numbers represent your physical flesh and blood body. That's what's in red. It represents your body on the New York Stock Exchange. Because your body, your physical body, is being bought and sold on the stock exchange. So that's why if you take money, you take the dollar bill, you will see a series of numbers, the serial numbers. And if you take the back of your Social Security card and put it above those numbers, you will see they're matching. So the idea being is that the back of the Social Security card is your body on the New York Stock Exchange, which is backing up the currency in America. And so that's why, it's a whole story about how you are a commodity on the stock exchange. Incidentally, you are worth, from what I've gathered from hearing the people who know, they're saying that your body is worth something like $6 million on the New York Stock Exchange. And that's interesting, because if that be true, which I think it is, that means that you're worth $6 million right now yourself. There's so much that you need to understand about how the corporation works. So how do you get freedom? Well, for one thing, first of all, you have to understand that you are not free. If you're a U.S. citizen, you are an employee of a foreign corporation, and they own your body. Therefore, to get away from that, you have to get out of the system. And the laws have changed now because 9/11, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion, and I've only been looking at it for 53 years, but my opinion is 9/11 was a setup job in order for the government to be able to do certain things that the people would never allow. But like Adolf Hitler did in Nazi Germany, he had his own people go out and burn down the Reichstag building. We know that. We know that from history now. We know that Hitler sent his own people out to burn down the government building in Berlin and scared the peawads out of everybody.
And for all you who think the U.S. government is some saint, just look at Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Yeah, well, God knows we can go down the line and talk about
too
this.
many.
Way too many. As a matter of fact, I should keep this out because we can talk about that. The symbols on the dollar bill, that tells you a lot too.
Oh, this will be good.
Yeah. I mean, I started talking about this a long time ago, 45 years ago. Incidentally, when you were saying that I have been influencing the liberty movement, the freedom movement, I really have never been a party to any movement at all, ever. I've never joined any organization, and I was doing what I'm doing 53 years ago, back in 1959, 60, 61. I was going around town giving lectures on secret societies, who prints the money, national coats of arms, harlotry, national treasure kind of things, who wrote the Constitution, where did it come from. And so I've been doing this stuff for many, many years. And obviously at the time I was doing it, nobody knew what I was talking about. But the basic story I've been trying to get out for all my life is that nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Nothing. The U.S. government is not what you think it is. It's a corporation. It's a company. It's like Baskin and Robbins. It's like a Target. It's a corporation. It's a company. So are you. You're a corporation. And so how do you tell the difference because there are two of you. As I said, there are two states in every state. Well, there's two of you. There's the one that God created, the one that your parents gave to the world, but there's also the legal you. Now, understand this. There is no law on this earth, not federal, state, county, city, nothing. No law in the world applies to your physical flesh and blood body. The reason why, the logic was in the ancient world, and especially in the Middle Ages, was all the kings realized that nobody can control you. Even your mother can't control you. When you were a baby, she had no control over you. And nobody knows what's going on in your head from one day to the next, so nobody can control you. But the kings wanted to be able to have control. So how did they do it? They're very simple. They created another you. They created a legal, lawful you. They call it a straw man. And so they created a document. And the document says that the document has your name, your address, and everything on it, which is you. Then they ask you, would you sign this, agreeing that your body is represented by this thing I created? I'm the government, and I created a document, and it has the same name as you. So would you agree that this document represents you? Please sign it.
Oh, I would never do that.
Well,
You have to be a fool.
Well, once you sign it, I own you, because I own this. You can't do nothing, period. So unless you're like Donald Trump and got hundreds of millions in cash and you don't have to work and you can buy your way through life, fine. But if you have to live like everybody else, you don't want to be a state citizen, because you've just cut yourself off from banks, from business, from everybody. And I've got people that will blow your mind on this stuff and tell you, all right, if you want to do it, here's the way to do it. And they can do it. But you have to know how to do it correctly. But once you do that, you've opted out of a system, and that system runs the planet, and you just dropped out. You just dropped off. So now, you've got certain privileges now. The federal government has no jurisdiction over you. If they stop you, and see, that's another problem with state citizenship, is because you cannot have a driver's license, you cannot have anything on your car. You can't have any kind of identification that connects you to the federal system. Therefore, that being the case, if you're driving a car, which you can do, you're allowed to drive your own, you're allowed as a state citizen to travel freely. And you need to understand this. Let me go back and say this. When you get a new car, you have something called the operator's manual. Operator's manual means that you are the operator of a motorized vehicle. You're an operator, and that tells you how to run the car, when to change the oil and all that. It's called an operator's manual. Why? Because you are considered by law an operator of a motorized vehicle. Motorcycle, I don't care what it is, a 14-wheeler. It doesn't matter. If it's wheels and you buy it, you're an operator of the vehicle. However, if you're using those wheels to make money, now it's commerce, now it's business. If you're using the motorcycle to be a delivery, or if you bought the car to be a cab, now you're using the vehicle, the wheels to make money. That's business. Now you got to have a license. And so now you're no longer an operator. You're referred to in law as a driver. You have a bus driver, a cab driver, a truck driver. Driver means you are using the wheels for commerce. But if you're not using the wheels for commerce, then you are authorized to drive or to operate a vehicle. You're an operator of a vehicle. If you're using it for make money, you're a driver. So once you understand that once you opt out of the federal system, you're going to be out there by yourself. And there's no one going to be able to help you on anything. However, I would go on to say this. I know many people who are state citizens today, quite a few of them here in LA, and I'll introduce you to them. And they're doing it somehow. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it. And some of them are doctors. I know doctors who are state citizens. I know dentists who are state citizens. I know people who own dealerships who are state citizens, who are totally out of federal citizens. They know how to do it, and I haven't really inquired because it's not something I'm interested in. But if I were, I'd go to these people who are very successful at doing it and say, how do you get around this? How do you do this or that? Because they are doing it lawfully and legally. And I was going to add the problem, though, another problem, very big, is that if you are a state citizen, you cannot have a driver's license or a tag on your car. So if you drive out into the street with no license and no tag on the car, and you don't need insurance because that's only federal, you don't need insurance. And so you are stopped. You have no license, no tag on your car, and no insurance. You go into jail, period. And you can show them all the paperwork that is you're a state citizen. The cops can't read. They are goofy. The cops are thugs. They don't care about what the law says. The police in America are nothing more than the heavy arm, like the mafia. They're the street soldiers.
They're the enforcers.
They're enforcers.
They directly initiate force.
That's it. That's why that's called the armed forces.
Without the initiation of force, you couldn't have any of the coercive system at all. It wouldn't exist.
No. So that's why cops today are there for one reason, to make sure you are in compliance. They don't ask you, they don't know what the law is. Half of them can't read. So they don't know what the law is. They don't care about the law. All they know is that they're being paid a salary to do one thing, to make sure you're in compliance with Berlin. They're making sure you're in compliance with the powers that be. And you say, well, why are you as an American treating me, a fellow American? They're not Americans. They're cops. They don't give a damn about America. They don't care about your rights. You don't have any rights. As a U.S. citizen, you have no rights. You do not have access to the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. That's in the law books. So if you say that you are a U.S. citizen, you, by law, do not have access to the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. So that's why it always amazes me when I'm hearing people who are going to court and they're going to demand this and that because they have a constitutional right. Read the book, read the law books. It says if you are a U.S. citizen, you have no recourse to the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. So don't even bring it up. You are a U.S. citizen. That means you are an employee of my corporation. You just sit down and shut up. When you're in court, you got nothing to say. You are a dead man. Why? Because you're a corpse. You're dead. Dead people don't stand up and talk. So that's why you're not allowed to stand up and talk to the judge, because you're a dead man. You have to have someone speak for you. So that's why the attorney is your mouthpiece. He talks for you, because according to the law, you're dead. So just shut up and sit down. Why? Because when you walked in there, you were in hot water, and you got to be bailed out. And your body is a biological battery, so they're going to put you in a cell, as I said. So the problem is that if you become a state citizen and you don't have the driver's license or whatever, you're going to get stopped and you're going to go to jail. Now, you'll be in there for about 6 weeks until they finally get you into court. And then if you know how, if you're smart enough to know how to talk, and you've got the documents and you can show the judge, I am lawfully, according to your law, I am a California state citizen, I'm a Nevada state citizen, and here are the documents, and you enter that into the court, the judge will always say, you're right, the case is dismissed, because you're right, you are a state citizen, and the judge has no jurisdiction over you, and so he releases you. Yeah, but you were sitting in jail for 6 weeks waiting for that. And now you finally won the case, which you will. You get in the car to go home, another cop's going to stop you. Start all over again. You're not even going home. You're going back to jail. Now it starts all over again. So you're going to be in there for another 6 weeks until it will never stop. Because there's always going to be some cop out there who cannot read. He doesn't know anything about law. He has no comprehension of what you're talking about, sovereignty or state citizen. That's all, that's all Greek to him. All he knows is you going to jail. That's all he knows. He gets paid to do one thing, throw you in jail. That's it. That's all he knows. You got a problem with that or what? And so, it's like the cops tell me. They say, we're the best gang in L.A. All these other gangs are operating, we're the gang. Bet on it.
They're a legal gang, and everyone else is an illegal gang. It's a monopoly on force.
That's it. You got a problem with that? Speak up. And so, but you can become a state citizen. But as I said, there are people who are doing it, who know how to do it correctly. But I don't think I would bother with it, because I'm too old to be going to jail every time you turn around. Every time you go out in the street, you're going to get stopped by a cop, and he don't know. He's just going to arrest you. There are a lot of good cops, but most of them There's even articles in the paper. I've seen articles where certain guys are turned down from the police department because they were too bright.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen articles. They said, and one guy sued the police department because he has such a great average. I mean, such a great high IQ, and they said, no, we can't use you. And he said, why? Because
Wow.
you're too smart.
I knew they specifically hired thugs. I did not know they specifically turned away people who would actually be real cops.
No. Yeah, people who are highly intelligent, you
That's
will not
absurd.
get a job at the police department.
So
That's a fact, unless of course they need you upstairs. But generally speaking, the cops you'll meet, they're just guys doing their job. But they're not. Nobody claims that they're brilliant. They're just guys doing their job, and their job is very simple: to beat you up and make sure you're in compliance. That's it. In compliance with the Führer. The Führer in Berlin said that you have to do this and that, and you got to be in compliance. Why? Because you're not a sovereign. You're not an American. You're a U.S. citizen. You're not an American. There's a big difference between being an American and being a U.S. citizen. It's a really interesting, and it is actually lawful and legal. I mean, if you, I've sat and talked with lawyers and attorneys about this. And they say, yeah, well, you're right. You know what? If you talk to the Internal Revenue, there's a reason why it's called internal revenue. It doesn't apply to external, outside of the corporation. It only applies to inside the corporation. And since you are an employee of the corporation, then you are under the jurisdiction of the Internal Revenue, IRS. Internal Revenue, IRS, and the Federal Reserve are privately owned companies under the main corporation called the U.S. Corporation. It's a privately owned companies. Privately owned companies, corporations. And so if you talk to an Internal Revenue agent and tell them that you don't want to deal with the corporation, with the federal corporation, you want to deal with the American Republic, they will tell you, if you want to deal with the American Republic, that's different. You have to call this number in Philadelphia. It's in Pennsylvania. You call this number in Philadelphia and tell them that you want to deal directly with the United States of America Republic, not the corporation. And so they will tell you that there are two different governments going on right now. There is the U.S. government, which is a privately owned corporation, incorporated in 1871, called United States Corporation. And then there is the United States of America, the Republic. But that's in Philadelphia. And incidentally, did you know that the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue, their home office, where the home office and the Internal Revenue and the IRS and the Federal Reserve is in Puerto Rico? It's incredible. It's in Puerto Rico. Why? The Pirates of the Caribbean. Because that's why Disney Studios making all these movies with Johnny Depp, the Pirates of the Caribbean. They're telling you something.
By the way, does Disney specifically have an occult connection to anything?
Oh, God. I mean, his whole life was a cult connection to everything. Incredible. Yeah. I brought along a lot of documents and stuff I was going to show you. It's really an extraordinary story about how the world really works and how, for instance, as I told you, all life by law is a business. If you'll remember the movie many years ago called Network, when the head of the network was talking to the old newsman, he said, Mr. Beale, you think in terms of the Africa this and Russia that and China. There is no China, there is no America, there is no Russia. There's money. Either you got it or you don't. And so that's why, as I said, you are a commercial product, an Admiralty product. And that's why all business, all of your life is based on water. That's why you are advised when you are born to come on board a citizenship. That's where we get the word citizenship. Sportsmanship, relationship, leadership, craftsmanship, worthship, rulership. We use terms all the time. Money goes through your hands like water. Of course, money is water. It's the liquid asset, the cash flow. Liquidity, liquid assets. You're awash in debt. In court, you're in hot water. You need to get bailed out. You're flooded with bailout money. Bank account has dried up. You have offshore accounts, drowning in debt. You're running a tight ship. You have citizenship, as I said, scholarship, sportsmanship, courtship, hardship, heirship, friendship. They don't like it when you're making waves. You're rocking the boat because we were on a tight ship. So are you on board? Laundering dirty money, going mainstream, shipping department. The bank will levy your account. Yeah, one day your ship will come in. Government is statesmanship. Myrrh is the sea. I'm just saying that all life is a business and it's based on water. Water is maritime admiralty. Water is money. And so that's why America's in hot water today. Because their homes are underwater. They're losing their homes. There's a document, there's a really interesting document on the congressional record back in 1940. The document in the congressional record is called Steps Toward British Union, a World State in International Strife. A world state in international war, British Union, yes. Because the whole idea of the world, the wars that are going all over the world today are being purposely caused. There are people in this country today, I know of, there are people in this country today which are hired by the U.S. government to purposely go in and kill people to cause a terrible, something horrible, like in Syria or something, and some terrible catastrophe happened where there was 15 people were killed and 12 children were killed, and oh my God, it was horrible. And then you come to find out we paid them to do it. Why? Hey, it's just business. So why will we do that? So that we have to go in now. We have to go in and do something about this. So I'm just telling you, that's the way the world works. And
create the problem, reaction, solution.
yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
We gotta have. So when you were born, you were referred to in law as chattel, 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 chattel property. That's the term for your body. You are chattel property. Meaning chattel gives us that word cattle. Chattel means property or goods or moving property. Well, that's you. Your property, your own. But you are able to move. So chattel is referred to as moving property. Yeah, that's you. And so that's why you have a human resource. Because that's all you are, is just a resource. You got iron, rubber, oil, water, and you. You're a resource. So you are a chattel property. My goodness, I mean, I've got so much stuff here, but here's some of the interesting stuff about the corporation. Here's the state of Delaware. State of Delaware, you can order it for a couple of bucks, and the state of Delaware will send you a copy of the incorporation papers for the United States government, and it will tell you it's a privately owned company. Can you imagine that? Privately owned corporation, and I always say to people on a on a world map, I will guarantee you will not be able to show me and point out on a world map the United States. Can you do it? Show me where the United States is on a map. Well, people say, oh, well, obviously it's right there. That's the United States. No, it isn't. It's not the United States. That's the United States of America. But I specifically said, can you show me the United States on a map? Nobody can do it. Why? Because nobody knows what the United States means according to maritime admiralty law. If you ask constitutional attorneys or any attorneys and judges who know what I'm talking about in federal courts, where is the United States? They will tell you. Well, first of all, according to the reference works, United States is a privately owned corporation. United States is a company. It's a corporation.
Foreign corporation.
It's a foreign corporation. That's right. And the corporation went bankrupt in 1933, according to the documents, federal documents. Here's another one. In a lawsuit that was brought in government, the Federal Reserve is a privately owned company. Federal Reserve, privately owned corporation. Here is from Corpus Juris Secundum, from the Commission of Internal Revenue, says it is clear the United States is a corporation. It's a company. Cancellation of the Constitution, because the United States has the Constitution has been canceled. So when you hear people running around, "Oh, I got a constitutional right," you don't have any constitutional rights, son. You're a U.S. citizen. You're not an American. So don't come around telling me about your American rights. You're covered by American rights and constitutional rights. No, that's why you have the what is called the civil liberties, the American Civil Liberties Union. You don't have a right. It's an American civil liberty, not the American civil rights, because there is no such a thing as a civil right. It's oxymoron. There is no such a thing as a civil right. Civil means of government. Government does not give rights. Government gives privileges. It's a statue of liberty, not freedom. You don't have no freedom. So, according to the documents, the law books, according to Corpus Juris Secundum, which is the finding of all American law in any good law library, it says the United States is a corporation. It's a company. And when you say United States, what are you talking about? The word United States means this. When you hear the term United States, this is what United States means. Guam, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, American Samoa, Northern Mariana Islands, the Virgin Islands, and a couple of the other small islands is United States. And so the United States is a corporation which owns the Guam, the island of Guam, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, American Samoa, Northern Mariana Islands, and the Virgin Islands, and some smaller islands. That's from Corpus Juris Secundum. That's the law. So when someone says that I am a U.S. citizen, that means you are a member of a privately owned corporation that owns this. But it has nothing to do with the 50 states. That's totally different. That's the United States of America, the Republic. It has nothing to do with the corporation. United States citizen, it does not mean a natural-born citizen or a sovereign. No, a natural-born is a sovereign. You're not a sovereign. Here it is again. In the United States, and Corpus Juris Secundum, another place where it talks about Congress has the lawful exercise over, or exclusive exercise over Guam, Northern Territories, the islands, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Guam, Samoa. So I'm just saying that. Here's another one. The United States is a corporation. The law libraries are filled with documents, but unfortunately, all of this kind of stuff I'm talking about has nothing to do whatsoever with soccer, football, or anything of importance like Dancing with the Stars. And so most people don't know about any of this. They have no idea in the world how any of this works, how the law works. It's an extraordinary story of betrayal of the American people. We used to be a free country. Today we don't even know what we are. This is interesting. In the New Advent Encyclopedia, Catholic Encyclopedia says this: under Roman law, because obviously the Catholic Church is Roman, and so they operate under what is called Roman law, Roman canon law. And the article says this: the principles of Roman law. The principles of Roman law. The characteristics of early Roman law was its extreme formalism. From its first secret administration as the law of privileged classes, it expanded till it became the basis for all civilized legal systems. So what it's saying is that the laws that we have today go back to Rome. Roman law, the Senate, up on the hill, Caesar, Tiberius and Augustus Caesar, who has declared himself as God over all mankind. Oh, incredible. Here it is. Law Dictionary. Look up the word commerce. You tell me what it says. Commerce.
An interchange of goods or sexual relations.
Yeah. Now, when you look up in a law dictionary, look up the word, people say, well, they can't do this to me, I'm a human being. You know what a human being means in law?
What does a human being mean in law?
Read it.
See monster. Monster, a human being by birth, but in some part resembling a lower animal.
That's right. So if you're a human being by law, you're an animal.
Huh.
And you cannot have any property. That's why you cannot have property. You cannot own property. And here's a monster. Well, yeah, we just saw that. Yeah. You cannot own property because you are a monster. You are a human being. And that's why, according to British law, when you're talking about a man or woman which are sovereign, the word in law in England is you say he is a man on the land or a woman on the land. So if you're sovereign, if you're important in England, you are referred to as a man or a woman. And if you have offspring, they are called children. So a man and a woman is the term given to people who are of importance, who are royalty, who are sovereigns. But if you're not, if you are just a poor working class, then you are referred to as male or female, not man or woman. You're not a man, you're a human being. Therefore, you are a male or female. And look it up in the dictionary. Male and female are terms that are used around the world for animals. An animal is a male or female. It's not a man, it's an animal. So that's why on your driver's license and on your on your ID, it's male or female, because you are considered by law to be an animal. They own you. You need to wake up and understand that the reason why Americans know they don't have any power to do anything. I mean, we can elect our presidents, but you can't select your president. You can only elect the thugs that they give you. So the corporation called United States Corporation, once a year, since it's now a public, it's now dealing with the public since 1871. Well, the corporate law says that they have to have a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. And also, the corporate law says that if you're dealing with the public, which is now a public corporation, that once a year you have to have a stockholders meeting. And so if you can't be there because you're a stock. I mean, if you get married and you're marrying a wealthy girl, we say, well, she's a good stock. What are you doing, marrying a cow? No, that's a term that we use. He's a good stock, meaning that you are an animal, but you're a little bit higher class animal. But you're still an animal. And so you need to understand how words work, how government works, how society operates. It's an extraordinary story of betrayal. Betrayal. The people of America have not been told. They have been lied to, lied to and deceived and put on. And that's why they're losing their homes, they're losing their jobs, they're losing their country, they're losing their freedom, and now they're just losing their minds. Why? Because the people realize they have no power, because knowledge is power, and unless you understand how this thing we call America really works, then you're going nowhere. You can cry all you want and complain all you want, but unless you understand how the government really works, and I'm telling you, nothing works the way you think it does. Nothing. All life is a business. No, that's fine.
Actually, I do. That would be cool.
Huh?
I need. He picked up on that. It's funny. Professional. All right.
Something for you.
For me.
Where I'm living right now, I should talk to you in private.
All right. Let's do this afterwards, I guess. Then.
Yeah. Just remind me.
So where's the last one?
Just remind me though.
What's the deal with owning land while you're sovereign?
Say it again.
Owning land as a sovereign citizen? Does that mean you have to go by the building codes?
No, no. But the only way you can do it, if you become a sovereign, you don't own land. Nobody owns anything.
Yeah, right.
But if you want to own the land and actually own it, so that even God can't touch it, you have to buy the property or the car or the jet plane, whatever it is you're buying. You have to get it under allodial title. Allodial. Allodial. Allodial title. You can buy a car, you can buy a jet plane, you can buy a house, but you buy it under what is called allodial title. And I've seen that done because I had a guy buy me a car not too long ago, and we went into the agency and he says I want to buy him a car, and so the guy said okay, and so I picked up the car I wanted, and the guy buying it for me said we want this allodial title. I knew about allodial. Now I just want to see what they're going to say, and he said we want this car allodial title, and the sales manager said fine, okay, we'll have to go back and go get the paperwork. He went back and got the special paperwork, came out and says allodial title. Allodial simply means nobody, including God or Jesus, can touch this property. You own it.
Land as well.
The land as well. If you buy a house or buy a property, you can put it in allodial title. That means if the freeway is coming through and they want your property, they cannot touch it.
Can you grow hemp?
Huh?
Can you grow hemp on a allodial property?
No, if you're interested in help. I just think it's funny that you're talking about that because the man who is the single biggest hemp grower in the goddamn state is my dearest friend.
Really? That's a project that both Phil and I are working on.
Well, then you need to talk to me because I live with him.
Hey, do you know how much time it's going to take?
Huh?
Do you know how much time it's going to take? Is that
Are you right?
I have no idea. But thank you anyway. Yeah.
what way did you...
Okay, well, let's I gotta
Hey, you
go.
guys we've been taking
Hold on.
photos.
We'll take a break anyway.
Yeah, so
Let's do it. I own the paper, and you said that the paper represents you. So now I can do anything I want to the paper. I can't. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know. I don't have any control over you, but I do have control over the paper, and that paper is the birth certificate and the Social Security card, which represents you. And so it's a government entity that they can control, and you signed and agreed to it. And that's why on your birth certificate, if you look on the bottom of your birth certificate where your parents signed it, where your mother or father signed it, it doesn't say parent, it says informant. So your parents were informing the corporation that we got a new TV set that just came in. We got a new Toyota that's just come, and now the corporation can make money off of it. Incidentally, see, the corporation owns your body, and it makes money off of you, and it's selling you and buying and selling you on the stock market. Well, if you come into this country, say from Mexico illegally, the corporation called United States can put a lien on you. It's called a mechanic's lien. You know, if you pay a painter to paint your house and you don't pay him, he can go down for a few bucks and put a lien on the property, which means that you can't do anything with your home until you pay him. He has a lien on the property, okay? So therefore, if you come into this country and you're undocumented, they don't care if you're illegal, you're undocumented, because your body can be bought and sold if it's documented. But if we don't know you're here, then if they catch you, they will put a lien on you. And so then you become known as an alien. No, you're not an alien. They have put a lien on you. And so the corporation called United States looks at you as a lien. Alien. So when you look at the money, our dollar bill, of course you'll see on the what am I trying to say? The symbol for is called the Great Seal. The Great Seal is the eagle. And the eagle represents, in all ancient cultures, the eagle always represented the sun. So the eagle has two wings, left wing and right wing.
Different number of feathers?
Different number of feathers, yes. But that's why we only have two political parties. We have a left wing and right wing. Why? Because the eagle only has two wings, a left wing and a right wing. Okay. We have something in Washington called the Council of Nine. That's why you have the bottom line. The bottom feathers are nine. They're nine feathers. Look at the 13 stars on the dollar bill, and tell me what they make up together. The configuration of all 13 stars.
They make up the Seal of Solomon
That's
and the
right.
Star of David.
That's exactly right. The Star of David. Because the Star of David is actually a new term for that. This is a hexagram. Hexagrams have been around for 10,000 years. Hexagrams are a very, very old ancient symbol that's been used by the Hindus, the Buddhists. All the ancient peoples of the world have used a hexagram, a six-pointed star. The old Babylonians would draw a circle around on the ground and draw a triangle inside the circle. Then put a second triangle inside the circle, which makes a Star of David, or the six-pointed star. Then they'd step inside and cast a spell on you. And that's what we call putting the hex on you. They put the hex on you. And so the hex is a six-pointed star. And so, and originally the six-pointed Star of David was referred to, and look it up in the encyclopedias and reference works on occult symbols. It will tell you that the star, six-pointed star, or the hexagram, was a symbol for the planet Saturn. It's an old ancient astronomical symbol for the planet Saturn, which I think is interesting because the Hebrews are worshiping the planet Saturn, Lord of the Rings. And that's why Saturn in the old, now I'm getting into religion, but in the ancient world, the planet Saturn in the old ancient Phoenician language was called Shabbath, Shabbath. Shabbath was the planet Saturn in the Phoenician language. So today, the Hebrews who are still keeping holy the worship of Saturn, they call it Shabbath or Sabbath. And so the Sabbath is actually showing respect for the ancient Hebrew god Saturn, Lord of the Rings. Because that's what Shabbath was, the name for the planet Saturn.
And now we have Saturday.
Yeah, now we have Saturn Day. And why is it that the Hebrew people and others around the world too have their holy days after sundown? That has to do with the time of Moses. Because even in the Bible, in the first book of the Bible, in Genesis, it says that when God was creating the world, he started off with the evening and the morning of the first day, the evening and the morning of the second day. Always, God even started off with doing things in the evening, and then goes to the next day. So that's why the Hebrews today celebrate all their holy days after sundown. Why? Because during the time of in history that Moses would have been around, Moses was the leader of a lunar cult. It was a time in which the Hebrew people, or those ancient people we call the Hebrews, were worshippers of the moon. Because if you've ever been to the Middle East, especially into Egypt, looking across east from Egypt is the Sinai. And in the Sinai, there are high mountain ranges in the Sinai. And at night, from Egypt's side and from the Egyptian side, you will see the moon come up. And so the ancient peoples, very ancient peoples, believed that the moon lived in the mountain. And he was referred to by the Arabs as the old man of the mountain, because at night he comes up out of the mountain. And so the moon god lived in the mountain. The moon god was called Sin. Look it up in our dictionary, S-I-N. Sin was the name of a god of the moon in the Arabic world. And the word Ai was a mountain. And so you put the god, which is the moon, Sin, with his mountain, Ai, put it together, it becomes Sinai. Sin Ai. So this old, very holy Sinai. No, it's Sin Ai, the mountain of the moon god. And when does the moon god come out? Well, he's not coming out when God's Son, the light of the world. Christianity is worshiping God's Son, the light of the world. Of course, the sun is the light of the world. What else lights the world if it isn't the sun? And so the Christians are worshiping the sun god, while the ancient Hebrews were worshiping the moon god. And he don't come out till after 6. So he comes out after sundown. So that's why they started all their days after sundown, because they were the worshipers of the moon god. And Moses was not a Hebrew name. Moses was an Egyptian term. It meant something. Moses simply means the son of. Like in Hebrew, bar meant, or ben and bar in Hebrew means the son of. So that's why you have Judah ben Hur, for instance. Ben Hur, what is H-U-R? And where does that H-U-R come from? It comes from Horus. Judah, the tribe of Judah, was the worshippers of Horus when they were in Egypt. Well, because the Egyptians were worshippers of the sun god. My goodness, and just all kinds of interesting stuff about words and terms and how the religion started. And, well, we need to get back to...
Yeah, let's finish up the dollar bill real quick, and then we'll
Yeah.
go into specifics on sovereign citizenship. I have a question or two.
Well, anyway, so, of course, on the back, on the reverse of the Great Seal, of course, you'll see the pyramid. Very few people have ever questioned, why do you have an Egyptian pyramid on a dollar bill? And why is the eye at the top? And what does that mean? And the words in Latin, most people are trying to earn a buck, they're not even looking at it. But if you look at the back of the dollar bill, it says Annuit Coeptus. And on the bottom, below the pyramid, it says Novus Ordo Seclorum.
New order of
New
the
order
ages.
of the world, the New World Order. And the Annuit Coeptus over the top simply means our enterprise is successful, or our enterprise has been crowned with success. And so, what enterprise? The New World Order. The New World Order, the pyramid has 13 layers. Just as the 13 stars, there are 13 feathers, there are 13 stripes, and the shield. You'll see the American shield. That's what is called an American flag. The American flag, the stripes are going up and down. A United States flag, which is a corporation, it's a privately owned company, U.S. flag, the stripes go that way. So it's interesting how people don't realize there are two kinds of flags. And so when the corporation was being founded, it was different than when the country was being founded. Because we talk about the Star Spangled Banner. Well, a banner is a promotion for a corporation. It's not a flag. Anyway, there's a whole story about the eye. The eye. Christians say the eye is the eye of Lucifer, and the eye of the devil, because they have no idea in the world what the eye really stands for. The eye on the back of a dollar bill is the symbol for the Hebrew Messiah, the Jewish Messiah, in the book of Isaiah and in the book of Psalms and other places in the Bible, Old Testament. The Messiah, not Jesus, but Hebrew Messiah, was referred to as a chief cornerstone the builders rejected. The word chief cornerstone is interesting in Hebrew. Not a cornerstone, chief cornerstone. And then in the New Testament, which is Christian, Jesus is twice referred to, once in the 1 Peter and once in the book of Revelation, where Jesus is referred to as the chief cornerstone the builders rejected. Same term that's used in the Old Testament for the original, for the Jewish Messiah. What is the word chief cornerstone? And again, Christians will tell you today Jesus is the cornerstone of the church. No. Go back and read it correctly. Jesus is the chief cornerstone. Big difference. Very big difference. Chief cornerstone, when you look up in the ancient Hebrew, means a triangle perched on top of a pyramid. A pyramid is the stone, but if you cut the top of the pyramid off, it's a perfect little pyramid itself. And that little one is called, in Hebrew, a chief cornerstone. So therefore, the Messiah is represented, for the Hebrew Messiah is represented on the dollar bill as a chief cornerstone. Now you'll see the light emanating from around it. It goes back to the idea that Jesus is the chief cornerstone. He is called God's Son, the light of the world. Interesting stuff when you get into American dollar bills and the symbolism on it. It all goes back, as I said, to corporations, business. The whole thing is business. Religion is a business. And it's a very big business. And I am always amazed and shocked to see how religion, what it has done to the human race. I have the highest of respect and the highest of admiration for spirituality. I believe in a divine spiritual presence in the world and in the universe. There's no doubt in my mind that there is a very high intelligence being expressed in the heavens. I have a highest respect for basically what you would call God, whatever that is. God is simply dog spelled backwards.
Yeah, no label can limit the infinity.
Absolutely. You're trying to understand the infinite with a finite mind. Like Manly P. Hall, my dear friend, said, if you can explain something about God so that everyone can understand, then that would prove conclusively that you don't know anything. Because your pea-sized, ignorant, ill-informed, uninformed brain cannot understand the divine complexity of the universe. And the best scientists in the world, they don't even understand it. And every 10 years, they got a whole new understanding of the universe. But I am totally convinced that there is a presence in the universe that men have called God. It's just that it's not on TV. It's not on TBN. That is a monstrosity. Christianity today is a monstrosity. But then again, most of religion is a monstrosity because it's a business. It's all based on commerce. That's why churches are divided into denominations, like 10s and 20s, right? You need to look at words. Words are very important. Now, in relation to the corporation, how to get out of it. Well, first of all, you're born into it, so the first thing you need to understand is that your birth certificate makes because I forgot to bring this out, that I said where your parents signed the birth certificate, it doesn't say parent, it says informant.
Mm-hmm.
But look on the other side, and you will see the whole birth certificate it's on stationery, which is security paper. It's on bank security paper. It's got the little the security design all around it. So it's a security on the stock exchange. But on the bottom, on the left-hand side, on the bottom, it's printed. It will tell you that this birth certificate is the property of the Department of Commerce. Why? Because you are a commercial product. Your mother gave birth to you. She was in labor. She built you in labor, and then you came out of your mother's water, so you are a maritime admiralty product, just like the TV came from Japan, came in on water. That's why if you're going to be born again, you have to go out and be dumped into the water and be born again, because you came out of your mother's water.
So how exactly do I shred the birth certificate?
Well, yeah. There are two ways of doing it. The first way is going to be very, very difficult anymore, because the government realized that people were catching on to the trick of how this stuff works. And there seemed to be a growing movement out there in the world of finding out how we've been had. And there's a lot of intelligent people out there starting to ask questions. And so the government immediately realized they're going to have to do something to close the door on this, lock it down quick, before these kids start reading too much and learning too much. And now we're going to have a problem, because now they're talking and they're learning how we did this, and they're learning the tricks and the secret of how we control them. So we better do something quick. So they knocked down the World Trade Center, scared everybody to death. The boogeyman's going to get you, and Al-Qaeda is going to get you, and Bullshiter or whatever it was, and they're going to get you. And so therefore now they are able to enforce new laws that say if you even open your mouth, you're going to prison. And if we catch you even thinking the wrong German thoughts in Berlin, we catch you thinking or saying anything, you're scaring me. You know, I'm your master and I own your body on the stock market. And if you start talking about freedom, that scares me. And therefore, basically, I'm terrorized. Therefore, you are a terrorist. Now I can arrest you as a terrorist. Why? Because you're talking too much. And I'm thinking to myself, where are the Jews on this? This is what the Jews went through in Berlin. This is the stuff they went through in the 1930s. I mean, where's Steven Spielberg? Where's George Lucas? Where are the Jews in Hollywood saying that this is the same stuff that they were doing to the Jews in Europe? Now they're doing it here. Same thing.
Same spirit.
Same spirit, same thing.
Then there's Operation Paperclip, where
That's it.
100+ Nazi scientists were recruited by the U.S.
CIA. The CIA, which actually the CIA was originally called the OSS, Office of Strategic Services. during the Second World War, the United States got together with the Vatican. The Vatican's behind all of this stuff, way behind all of this stuff at the Vatican. And the Jews should know it. Jewish people should understand. You hear all this stuff, I've said this publicly so many times, you hear all this stuff about the Jews are doing this, and the Jews are doing that, and the Jewish, all the Jews I know are trying to find a job. You know, they're just trying to stay alive. They're not controlling the world, they're trying to find a job. They're trying to just live and pay their bills. So when you hear all this stuff about the Jews are doing this and that, you better go back and look at the real powers behind the world throne. That's the Vatican. You better go back and check out the Jesuits, because in New York, New York, you will see who are the people who are putting the presidential candidates together. If it isn't the church, you always see the cardinals and the big shots in the churches bringing all and Jones, what is it? The university back east in what is that university? It's a Jesuit university. Jesuits are really behind a lot of this stuff. I mean, get the movie Godfather 3, the third one in the series. Michael Corleone. Everybody knows he's a godfather. He's the head of the mob family. And in the very beginning of Godfather 3, he's being anointed with a sword in New York as a member of the Knights of Malta. Yeah, it's in the movie. He's he's right in the church, and the cardinal is anointing Michael Corleone into something called the Knights of Malta. The Knights of Malta are a very powerful secret society operating behind and for the Catholic Church. They're connected to something called Opus Dei, the work of God, Opus Dei, and Opus Dei, CIA, NSA, all of these alphabet agencies are connected to the Knights of Malta, which is a Catholic institution. And it makes sense because Rome, America, is the new Holy Roman Empire. I mean, Caesar, where did Caesar rule the empire from in Rome? He ruled from a place in Rome called Capitoline Hill. Capitol Hill. And in the reference books, you can read in the history books where Caesar in the morning would go up on the hill. Well, we still say that. You know, the president's up on the hill. What was he up on the hill for in Rome? Well, he was going to officiate over the Senate. That's what we got. We got a Senate up on the hill. It's all Catholic. It's all Jesuit. They got nothing to do with Jews. We're talking Vatican, the Holy Father. This is why all over the world, all the politicians go and kiss the ring of the Holy Father and bow down and kiss the ring. Why? Because he's the Holy Father. He represents God. He is the Godfather. We're talking Rome. We're talking powerful occult orders of secret societies, Opus Dei. They're the people Rome gave birth to something called P2, Propaganda Due. P2 Lodge is operating out inside the Vatican, inside the Catholic Church, as a secret society called Propaganda Due, P2. P2 is an extremely powerful occult network of very powerful politicians, military leaders, and they are well known. Even in the movie Godfather 3, P2 is mentioned twice. Go back and watch it. They talk about P2. And there's a time when the young man who's taking over the Godfather position is meeting the Grand Master of P2, Propaganda Due. It's in the movie. And he introduces him as the master of P2. Well, P2 is called Propaganda Due. It's a secret society operating in the Vatican, which is actually the terrorists of the world. They're the ones who are causing the terrorists all around the world. Terrorism, South America, Central America, and Europe, where they're blowing up cars and killing people. They send in P2. They go in and kill people and cause a massive destruction. Then they pull out. Now the government has to go in to do something to help them, and so the power up on the hill, the Senate, Rome, has to go in and take care of these people. It's a trick. The whole entire world is a business. And the more I learn about this, the more you see how this stuff really works. It's extraordinarily scary stuff. So it's very difficult to get out of the system, and I'm not sure you want to.
What are the pros and cons of this exact thing?
Well,
How do
let
you
me tell
travel?
you. Yeah, there are pros and cons. There is a way to get out. There's actually a fairly easy way to get out from the system. But here's the problem. When you opt out of the federal system, you don't want to be a federal employee anymore. You can become a state citizen. This is what was going on before and during the Civil War. Before the Civil War and during the Civil War, people in America were called state citizens. And the way the country was set up back in 1776, every man, woman, and child in this country was considered a sovereign, meaning you had the same power in you as an American. You had the same power of a king of England. You were a sovereign. That's why in the cowboy movies, you've seen how many movies, the John Wayne cowboy movies, well, the cowboys are riding into town with guns. They didn't have to have a permit. Ask those guys coming in off the prairie with their guns. Do you have a permit? They'll take a permit. Come out in the street. I'll show you my permit. Why? Because cowboys could wear guns. Why? Because you're a sovereign. Under maritime admiralty law, the way the country was founded, you're a sovereign. Sovereign means you're a king. And a king has a right to arm himself. The King of England has a right to have an army. What are you going to do about it? And so one day, if the King of Spain wakes up and decides he doesn't like the King of France, and he's going to declare war on the King of France, well, that's the same thing in a bar and a cowboy. One king, he's a sovereign. He's got guns. He's got his own guns, and he's legal. He's lawful. And he's decided he doesn't like you. You're another king. So now you got two kings, and they've got and now they've got a bad situation here. Well, go out in the street and solve it. Why? Because that's not like the movie High Noon. Cowboys could go out in the street in America in front of the sheriff and draw on each other. Why? Because the law says that you were a sovereign. As a sovereign means you're a king. You can do whatever you want, but you're going to pay for it. Because if you're carrying a gun, well, so is he. And so if you're going to go out in the street with a gun, just know this is serious. One of you is not going home tonight, right? And so that was the way America was founded. Well, after the Civil War, around 1848, a group of men in Europe, in England, got together. The group was called the League of Just Men. The League of Just Men. And they wrote a manifesto for a new kind of government in Europe. But this is in 1848 in America. But in Europe, there was a League of Just Men, and they were writing up a new plan for a new kind of world government. And so the League of Just Men wrote up a document, and then they picked somebody to put their name on it because they didn't want anyone to know who wrote it. So they picked a guy named Karl Marx. Karl Marx did not write the Communist Manifesto. It was written by a handful of men called the League of Just Men, and they put Karl Marx's name on it. But he didn't write the Communist Manifesto. It's like evolution. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin did not write Origin of the Species. He didn't write anything about evolution. Charles Darwin never wrote anything about evolution. And today everybody, Charles Darwin, evolution. Charles Darwin never wrote anything, period, about evolution. Go back and do your homework. You'll find out that Charles Darwin's family financed a man named Wallace. The guy's last name was Wallace. I don't remember his first name. And Wallace was the guy who was traveling around in the Caribbean, and he was studying all the animals and the reproduction of animals, and he was writing. But Charles Darwin's family was financing him because they were very interested in his work. So they were financing this guy named Wallace. And so Wallace was writing all these notes about his ideas and thinking about evolution of animals, etc. And then he got very sick toward the end of his life and wrote a letter to Darwin's family and said he was very sick and he may not make it. So, you need to come and help me and get all this stuff out of here if I die. So Charles Darwin came over and got all of Wallace's books and papers and everything. And then when Wallace died, Charles Darwin figured, well, my family financed the whole thing. I'll put my name on it, become a big movie star. So Charles Darwin puts his name on a book that becomes known as he's the father of evolution. He's not the father of anything. He's just a ripoff. All his family was just financing Wallace. So when you understand how all these things that we're being told, we're being lied to every day. I mean, the Marlboro man dies of lung cancer. Nobody knows, and but to go back to the idea that there was a time when you could become a state citizen. And if you're a state citizen, that means you're not in the federal system, because a federal was referred to as a U.S. citizen. But no, if you were born in Colorado, you could say, I'm a Colorado citizen, not a U.S. citizen. And so you can do the same thing today. You can become a state citizen today in America. And once you do, you're out of the federal system completely. And the federal government no longer has any jurisdiction over you at all, period.
Would you be allowed to grow hemp if you were a sovereign citizen?
Oh yeah, you would be allowed to do anything.
Ignore building codes.
No more building codes, none of it, because you are completely out from under the federal jurisdiction. And that's the name of the tune. Any cop will tell you, jurisdiction. I mean, if you have a wife and your baby and your kid is in my house and he's acting up, I can't discipline him. Why? Jurisdiction. He's not mine, he's yours. If anybody's going to do anything, you, not me, because I don't have jurisdiction. Well, that's the way the government works. If you're a state citizen, the federal government does not have jurisdiction, and they know it. So they just leave you alone, because they can't touch you. It's jurisdiction. Now, same thing if you're running across the border from one state to another, and the cops from California cross into Nevada or Wyoming. They can't do anything in Wyoming. They don't have jurisdiction. They have to turn it over to the Wyoming authorities, and then extradite you back to California. But they can't do anything inside another state because they don't have jurisdiction. So if you're a state citizen, the federal government has no jurisdiction over you. And you can do that. I'll tell you how to do that. I'll tell you the person to go to and the places you can just go on the web to statecitizen.org. Tons of information out there. But I would suggest that you don't want to do that. And the reason why is because once you opt out of the federal, what you can do, once you get out of the federal system, it is like your situation would be like you went to an island in the South Pacific on a small little island to live forever. Because you will no longer be able to have a driver's license, you will no longer be able to write a check, no credit cards. If you get in an accident and you need to go to the hospital, no hospital will take you. I don't care how bad off you are. The emergency hospital will tell you, sorry, we cannot touch you. Get security and get him out of here. They cannot touch you. If you're a state citizen, nobody can touch you. Nobody can do any business with you. You cannot write a check. You can't have a check. Credit cards? No. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. What am I doing here? I'm going to come take this off of me because I can't see it. And then it drops down. They're really.
Just any question that you want to skip over? Yeah. That's all. We'll edit it out. Yeah.
There are mics, there are mics. Is that guys in it? Next speaker. I thought you bring it up to certain ones that by the way. Yeah.
It's just it's just so crazy that you know about that. Avoidal. What is avoidal ownership? Alright.
It starts talking about semantics.
I love it though. So good. Yeah, but then I found out that they were wrong. We'll get into the learn after that. Yeah, how good is that guy's first? I mean, did you still?
I think that was what we wanted to talk about. What happened tonight.
Yes.
Oh,
George, by the way, that Mr. Carey's father was Timothy Carey, the actor.
say it again.
You know Timothy Carey, the film star of
Tim Carey, yeah. Tim Carey?
Timothy Carey, the guy from The Killing, Paths of Glory,
Oh, no, no,
East of Eden,
no.
One-Eyed Jacks.
What about
Yeah,
him?
my dad's the guy you love to hate. Did it like 100 films.
Oh, really?
Big character.
How about him?
Alright, so the first question is going to be about allodial ownership. We're going to get into the parallels between Lincoln and Kennedy a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Yeah, I'll say that we've already answered that, so we'll do some other.
If you could, kind of just because I don't have a lot of time left,
Uh-huh.
I'd rather you get most of your questions out. Just run all your questions. Either he has the answer or he doesn't have the answer.
Alright, cool.
Right, right. Yeah, just go through them, let's see what happens.
Just throw them at you and then
Later-
we'll edit them if you don't
later
want
you
them.
can edit all the stuff out.
Alright,
You're
cool.
gonna have to edit it anyway.
We got some very good ones. Very good ones.
Yeah, very good questions. Not necessarily very good answers.
The truth is, we already got a show.
Yeah.
So this is just extra stuff.
We got more than enough info.
You can use this for
How long did we go?
An hour? What was it? An hour or something? An hour? About 90 minutes.
How much?
Yeah.
I'd say 90 minutes.
Yeah, at least that.
No, it was more than that.
More than that?
Wow.
Over 100 for sure.
That's like been here.
Jesus. Christos.
We had Larry King in here not that long ago, and we went 40 minutes, and he goes, "What is this? What is this? What is this? A marathon interview?" 40. He was only good for 45 minutes. He was completely toast.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan Maxwell owns it.
The last question he asked me, he says, "So this would be a good question for you too." I always try to tell kids when I interview, save this question to last. What's the most important thing you learned in life? And so when he gave that to Larry, I'm always interested in hearing what, especially a guy who's Larry's age and lived a pretty
Yeah.
interesting life. All I know is I don't know. Thanks
Well,
a
that's
lot,
true.
Larry.
That's true.
Yeah.
That
At least
makes-
he's honest.
Yeah, at least he's honest. Started off on the bottom and worked his way down from there.
Sure.
We're overloaded with questions here.
Yeah, we have more than enough for sure.
Well, you frame this.
I'm not asking the Scientology questions because they're sketchy.
Okay, take them out.
Alright, cool.
Just get over it.
Just ask the good one.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but I've protested Scientology before. They have the biggest team of private investigators in the nation. They came to my dad's house, gave all of our neighbors a bunch of flyers telling them to kick us out of the neighborhood. Protesting Scientology is harder than the government sometimes. It's weird.
You know about L. Ron Hubbard, his occult connect.
To Crowley.
Yeah, with Aleister Crowley and what's it is? Jack L. Parsons.
So I want to start off with this question just so you know it's about to hit you. How about we start off with, what do you think of Crowley? Was he a good person, a bad person? Because there's so much disinformation out there,
Yeah.
and it seems to me like he's a yin yang. Anyways,
Yeah.
all right, I'll start with a ladle. All right, so Jordan Maxwell, what is allodial ownership?
Well, first of all, understand that if you're a U.S. citizen, you do not own anything. If you paid your house off, you don't own it. You have an equitable interest in the property, but you don't own it. Only way you can own anything in America, and actually own it, is with something called allodial title. A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Allodial, I think that's the way it's spelled. A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Allodial title. Allodial title means God cannot touch it. No one. Because it's absolute owned by you. But if you don't buy your car, your jet plane, your boat, your house, whatever it is, and have an allodial title, then you don't own it. And the authorities can come in and take your home anytime they want. It's interesting. Banks cannot touch anything that has an allodial title, cannot touch it. Government cannot touch it. No one can touch anything that is bought under a allodial title. Go look it up in the dictionary. Look it up in the law dictionary. Allodial title. Very interesting. The Queen of England, everything she owns is an allodial title. Means God can't touch it. Yeah. So, and Americans can buy stuff in allodial title. You just have to know how to do it.
And what is the exact connection between the Queen, the House of Windsor, and the Catholic Church, and that whole, how do those institutions?
Well, the Vatican, if you remember that for at least 2,300 years, Rome, starting with the Caesars of Rome, the Augustus Caesar, the first emperor, but for 2,300 years, Europe has been dominated by Rome. And then for in the last 1,600 years has been under the Catholic Church. The Holy Father is the Pontifex Maximus, which was a term given to the Caesars. Pontifex Maximus means the greatest bridge builder. And so, again, Rome has dominated Europe for 2,300 years, first under the Roman Empire and then under the Vatican. And for 2,300 years, Europe has dominated the planet. So therefore, all roads lead to Rome. And so that's why, again, when we were talking about the Jewish thing, the Jews are not doing anything near what whatever's going on out there. Don't worry about the Jews. You better look at the Vatican. For 2,300 years, Rome has ruled Europe, and Europe has dominated the world. There's where the power is. The Holy Father, nothing holy in Rome. He represents God. That's why all of the royalty will tell you that they have a divine right. What do you mean divine right? That implies God put you there. No, divine right comes from the idea that the Pope anointed you. The Pope said you could be prince, so now you have a divine right. Why? Because he represents God. You say, what God? Because that Pope's tiara he wears is a fish head. The Roman Catholic Church is worshiping an old god named Dagon, D-A-G-O-N, Dagon. Dagon is the god of the Roman Catholic Church. But happily, most people have no idea who Dagon was. I have no idea what I'm talking about. So everything is fine until you wake up one day and start doing your homework and find out that the Roman god Dagon is the god of the Roman Catholic Church today. That's a real story. D-A-G-O-N. Go do some homework on it. Yeah.
So, what is Project Bluebeam, and has it been exposed to the point where it is not a viable option for the elitists addicted to hierarchy?
Well, Project Bluebeam, I can't even remember what it was about. I heard we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, and I don't even remember exactly what it was all about.
All right, cool.
But it all has to do with the presence, extraterrestrial presence. All of these little projects like this, Project Blue Book and all this has to do with UFO alien presence. And I am telling you, there's no doubt in my mind at all that there is an extraterrestrial or alien presence on the earth today. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I've seen too many things with my own eyes. I've heard way too many stories from important people from all over the world. I've traveled around the earth, and I've heard way too many stories from very important people, very well-grounded, highly intelligent people, professionals, who tell me on one-on-one, stories about their one-on-one encounters with aliens. So I have to assume that there's too much smoke not to be a fire. And I'm telling you, there are aliens right now here in this city.
Are us humans aliens, or the result of?
Yeah, I think I think we are the result. I have often said that the word that is used is incorrect. We talk about evolution. Evolution is not the subject you need to know about. Evolution is not important. What is important is intervention, not evolution.
Speaking of intervention, who are the Anunnaki?
Oh yeah, because, well, if you go back to the Bible and I believe that both the Old and New Testament is an encoded story. That's a whole different subject, but I believe that the Old and New Testament, especially the New Testament, is an encoded metaphor. It's encoded, telling you something real important, but you walk right past it. That's why the Bible has Jesus saying, you look with your eyes but do not see. You listen with your ears but you don't hear. And with the heart you don't get the sense of it. In other words, go back and read it. It doesn't say what you think it said. And so when God, which is actually Elohim in the plural, and God said, come, let us make man in our image after our likeness. It's in Genesis. Rabbi Marvin Entelman, many years ago, I used to sit and talk with him, and other rabbis, teachers I've sat and talked with for hours. They brought out to me, this was back in the mid-60s, that I was told, nowhere in the Bible does it say that God created man. Nowhere. It does not say in the Bible anywhere that God created man. What it says in Genesis is that God created Adam, not man. And so it's the scripture actually says, that God said, come let us, who's us? Come let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And so Christians say, well, see, there's God creating man. And Rabbi Antelman said, no, that's not what it says. Go back and read it. It says, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Not make man, man's already here, but come, let us make him in our image, after our likeness. And then later on it says that God says, the God said, here man has become as one of us. He knows too much. He's getting too smart. He's become as one of us. What do you mean us? It's very interesting is that in Genesis 9, the first words in Genesis 9 talks about after the flood of Noah's day, when God says to Noah and his family, his wife and 3 sons and three wives, there's 8 people on board the ark, and the Bible says that God says to Noah after the flood, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth. So I asked the rabbis, I said, is this a correct translation when it says go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth? Yes, that's correct. And I said, well, then that means do it again, because re means do it again. Yes, this is correct. Obviously, and one rabbi said to me, well, obviously, if God has destroyed all of mankind with a great flood, and if you want to have people on the earth, you're going to have to replenish the earth. Not plenish, replenish, do it again. And I said, okay, that makes sense. But what about in Genesis 1:28 when God is creating Adam, and he says to Adam and Eve, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth. The word is replenish. And I said, why? I thought that this is the first man and woman. And the rabbi said, no, it was not the first man and woman. He's telling the Adam to replenish the earth, do it again. And that's why, and we got into this conversation, because in Genesis 1:1 it says, in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth. But very interesting, in Genesis 1:2 says, and the earth was without form and void. And the rabbis will tell you, what does that mean? That God creates the earth and is without form and void? What does that mean? God creates something that has no form and is void. No, it's a mistranslation. The English were great with the King's English. They didn't know that much about Hebrew. Now we know better about the Hebrew language. And so the word in the Genesis 1:2 was tohu vavohu. Tohu vavohu is translated, mistranslated, and was without form and void. No, go back and read it correctly. Genesis 1:2 actually says, using the term tohu vavohu, is and the earth became a waste and a desolation. Not was without form and void. That means nothing. Became a waste and a desolation. And it's interesting that in Jeremiah, the 4th chapter in Jeremiah, I think it's Jeremiah 4, where the prophet Jeremiah says, I was sleeping on my bed and God gave me a vision of the earth. And the earth was filled with beautiful animals and beautiful cities. And there were great structures, but there was no man on the earth. And I said, wait a minute. The earth is filled with beautiful structures and beautiful animals, but there was no man on the earth? That's right. That's what it says in Jeremiah. Well, then who the hell was here then if it wasn't man? And it says that, but it was the meeting place of the gods, the meeting place of the Elohim. And so, and then it goes on to say in Jeremiah 4, I saw the earth when it was a beautiful meeting place with beautiful cities, but there was no man. And then Jeremiah says, and then I saw tohu vavohu, same word that was used in Genesis 1:2. I saw the earth and it became a waste and a desolation. So what the scripture is actually saying is that the earth was a beautiful paradise of some kind of an incredibly gorgeous and beautiful paradise on the earth many, many hundreds of millions of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, who knows. But it became a waste and a desolation, which implies that there must have been some kind of a Star Wars. Some kind of a war began on earth, and we're now seeing all the repercussions of that all around the world.
Do you think the Star Wars is still going on between so-called good and bad aliens?
No doubt in my mind about it. Absolutely. I think that there is a war going on now for the very life and soul of the human creature. We are, we have been created by someone, and whoever came here, like the Bible says, come, let us make man in our image. after our likeness. Well, that means that we look like our Creator. Well, that makes sense because in Genesis 18, Genesis 18, when you know the Scripture talks about the Old Testament about Abraham and Sarah, and the Scripture says that Abraham and Sarah were at their tent, and three men come walking up into their camp, and Abraham went out and bowed down down on the ground and said, "What is my Lord saying to his servant?" So he's bowing down to somebody very powerful. Well, it's just three men. And then he says that, and then the Bible says that the three men said that they were on their way to take care of some business, and they didn't have time to stop. And it says Abraham insisted that these three men stop at least and have dinner, and then they could go. And so the Scripture says, the spokesman for the three said, "All right, but make it quick. We're busy." And so it says that Sarah fixed dinner for these three men, and then after dinner, two of them got up and left, and the one stayed there. And the one that stayed to talk for a while with Abraham was the Lord in capital letters in the Bible. Maritime Admiralty. The capital letters means the Lord, not a Lord, the Lord. So it was the Creator. And that's why, you know, when the Bible says that Adam and Eve will walk with God in the cool of the evening, the very word in Hebrew for walk with God, the word in Hebrew means stepping on leaves, stepping on branches. So that when it says God walked and talked with Adam in the cool of the evening, yeah, he walked with him. He actually walked with him. You could hear him walking. It implies that God is the gods. And who are these gods? Well, whoever they are, they said, "Come, let us make man." He's already here. "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." So they procreated. They took some of their DNA out of their bodies and put it into a female hominid creature, Neanderthal creature, whatever, and impregnated a female, and let's see what she gives birth to. Some of us in her. Yeah. And so eventually she would give birth to a different kind of creature, which was hominid, Neanderthal, but also a little bit more elevated. Well, let's do it again. So then they procreated with her again, and took that creature and mixed their DNA, and let's see what happens the next time. That's us. That's where we come from. Because we are not indigenous to this planet. Our skin is not indigenous to the planet. We can't do what the animals do. The animals can stay out all night long in Montana. 25 below zero. The animals next morning are still out there. Yeah, you go try it. Go out there and try it for 5 minutes to stay in 25 below zero. Why? It's because our design of our body, our nervous system, the way we're created, half in the middle of your brain is called the reptilian. That's another subject. So, I mean, there's just so much about the human creature that we don't know. The man you really need to know about on that subject is a mind trip listening to him is a guy named Lloyd Pye, Lloyd, last name Pye. If he doesn't blow you out of the chair, nothing's going